Welcome, everyone, to It Tastes Different Gaming Podcast, the podcast with 4 different flavors coming from 4 different gamers. I am your host, Nick Irwin, and I want to welcome my co-hosts, Shane Eisterhold, Patrick Smith, and Russell Rowe. Hey, Patrick, where can they find us?
Well, the first place you should check out is our website at ittastes.different.com. This is the place where you can subscribe to all of our streams and connect to all of our social media sites. You can also find us on Facebook at It Tastes Different. We're also on Instagram at It Tastes Different PC. And then last but not least is Twitter, where you can find us at It Tastes Diff.
What's for dessert? We eat the raindrop cake with Valve. Today we're going to talk about Valve, the video game developer and publisher. It was founded in 1996 by Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington. They're based out of Bellevue, Washington. And of course, their first game was Half-Life, first-person shooter, released in 1998, which we all know Half-Life, which spawned a bunch of other games, and a lot of games that were kind of based off of Half-Life and the Half-Life engine, the source engine. So today we're going to talk about Valve and their games and their accomplishments and just kind of how the company is now and, you know, where we might see them going off in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and start this off. We'll just kind of go around and talk about Valve and, you know, what we think about the company and the kind of different games they brought out and various aspects of that type of stuff. So, Patrick, I'll go ahead and start with you, buddy. What do you want to say about Valve?
Well, in my opinion, their greatest achievement is Steam. I know they make some great games, but in my opinion, their greatest achievement is Steam. I've lost so much money to Steam because Steam, they distribute their own games, but they also sell a whole bunch of other other developers' games. They make games. They made games for a long time, but I think most of their focus has more often than not been the Steam platform and then their engine, their source engine. Obviously, they're still developing and using the source engine, but in my opinion, it's Steam. I'm always advent and fervent on Steam, especially during like the winter sales, the summer sales, and then the periodic sales in between there. Because man, you can get some great games for like dirt cheap. I by no means have the largest Steam library amongst us, but I'm probably second on my Steam library in this group. But I have plenty of friends who have a Steam library that'll put all of ours to shame. But that's what ends up happening. You end up buying like, I don't know, 10 or 20 games when the sale comes around, because you get 10 or 20 games for under $100 easy during the Steam sale, and then you just get around to playing 2 or 3 of them before the next sale, and then you buy 10 more and 2 or 3 before the next sale. Next thing you know, you got 100 or a couple hundred game library, and you haven't played. You have the library of shame at that point. You haven't played half of them. So I mean, I don't know about you, Nick, who I believe has the largest Steam library amongst us, but I probably have played 60% of the games in my library.
Yeah, I haven't played a lot. I own more than I've played, for sure.
All right. Yeah, I think you got the largest Steam library out of all of us. You may even have a larger Steam library than the rest of us combined.
Yeah, my library is pretty large. Let's see here. I have 760 games in Steam.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I only have 249. So,
man, I thought I was doing okay at like 60, just over 60.
Right. Yeah, I have 249.
But I'm a console guy, though.
Right. Yeah. So, yep. I mean, that's what I figured. I figured Nick would have the larger game. But for the most part, I was a PC gamer up until probably late 360 game on the consoles. I mean, I played all the old consoles and I played the original PlayStation, but I kind of fell out of touch with the consoles after a while. I got basically disenfranchised with them because the games were just getting so expensive, and I felt like they weren't worth the price that they were asking for them. And then, the community and the gaming for me on PC was better because there were so many. The community was so full of modders and so full of all these people just doing this outside the box things with video games. I mean, you could do so much with games on a PC that you couldn't do on a console up until a few years ago, or a year ago even. You couldn't do modding and stuff like that. And now Xbox is getting real big into allowing the modding community to put in approved mods in the Xbox community. But like PC games, it's it's whatever you want. You put out whatever you want, and if it's good enough, people will download it. So Valve has kind of kept that hobby going for me with Steam, and so I'm pretty sure a lot of us is the same way. But they're better known for their games for some people, but I more associate them with Steam digital library and digital distribution services. But we also play a lot of games. Russ, what do you think of when you think of Valve?
Well, I mean, I have to first say, if I don't say Half-Life, I mean, that was my number one game. For those listeners that may not have heard, that's my number one game of all time is Half-Life. It's the game that kind of introduced an RPG / first-person shooter kind of atmosphere to me, and the story just engulfed me. But to kind of backtrack a little bit on the Steam portion of it, I believe that Steam was the first digital library system out there, something that you can buy all your games and have them there at just a click of a button versus having to have 14 different hard drives to download all these games over time. I feel like Steam was the very first one PC wise that kind of did that, and that was I think that's what's revolutionary about Steam versus all the other products out there. I mean, Origin came after. I mean, all those came after this one here, and I think that's what sets this company apart. And then if we look back at Valve within the addition of making Half-Life, and then they had the offshoots, Team Fortress, Counter-Strike, they had Day of Defeat. All those games kind of kicked off around that source engine. I think that's a big accomplishment from them as well. In that era, there was a lot of people using the Unreal Engine. I mean, you had Unreal Tournament at the time, or whatever it was there, and you had Quake, and you had all those guys. But yet, at the same time, here it was its own developer, its own software company making these things that were being used outside of it and being very successful in-house. I think that's a huge thing about Valve, is that they're very successful keeping things in-house. Now, I know times have changed and stuff like that, but at the same time, this company was very successful in a time where and it has kept strong with Steam by looking outside the box, at least in my opinion. So Half-Life 2, both Counter-Strikes, Counter-Strike, the original one, of course, and then when they did Counter-Strike, oh my goodness, my brain just dumped the name of that second one, the Counter-Strike Source. When that one came out as well, that was kind of the revamp of Counter-Strike, and then they did Counter-Strike Condition Zero. All those there are a lot of fun. I mean, hours upon hours, LAN games beyond LAN games, good times with that game. So, it was a good time. I'm very proud to be a very big fan of this, hence the reason why I did suggest this to be one of our developer highlights. Because this, I think, is an example of a company, when done right, when kept together and in-house, how it could produce over time. I mean, Half-Life, Alex, although we are very upset that it is a VR game, it has got success. So I don't want to fault them because I don't feel like spending the money, but I'll fault them because they should have had an alternative for PC people. But anyway, that being said, how about you, Shane? What you got to say?
Valve, never heard of 'em. No, just kidding. Valve's great. Steam is awesome for PC players. It really is. I mean, it paved the way for Origins, Game Pass. I mean, at least the setup of Game Pass, not the subscription part of it. And that's fantastic what they've done there. And like you were saying about the in-house stuff, they're really good at that. But when it comes to games, honestly, Valve's got some hit and misses with me. Half-Life is a fantastic series. The problem with Half-Life, I don't know if that game is as good as it really is, or is it as we want to say it is, or is it just remembrance of the good old days that are, youth, that game came out. Was it that revolutionary? But me, the game that I really think about when I think of Valve is Left 4 Dead. I love the Left 4 Dead series. I've spent more time in the Left 4 Dead games than any other game Valve has ever put out. From Dooms to Counter Strikes, all that crap. I'm a Left 4 Dead guy. I can't wait for the new. What's the new one called, Nick? Something. Can't think of the new one. Back 4 Blood. Yeah.
Well, that's not there, so can't say that.
Yeah, but it's the same developers, or not the same developers,
same people,
but same crew.
Yeah, not the same developers.
But that's the game I remember. I think of more fondly than any of them. Portal with the orange box. God, love Portal. I mean, they took that little developer, slapped it in their 3-pack, and it was great. I mean, that game was so freaking fun, and it was so different at the time too. And it fit right along with the Orange Box collection. It really did. I mean, it worked great, as a companion piece for the original Half-Life and Team Fortress. I mean, it was a great companion game. And they spurred a sequel out of it, which I loved even more. Valve knows what they're doing. Valve does make mistakes. I mean, we've all, seen them make mistakes, but I mean, overall, their track record is top notch. It's really hard to complain about Valve. As a developer, you never hear anything bad about them. I mean, you really don't.
Only bad thing I hear about them is they never put anything out. They create all this hype and never put anything out. Everybody's been wanting Half-Life 3 forever, and they never. And it was always like rumored.
Oh yeah.
And then I think they've canceled more Half-Life titles than they've actually put out.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, they should have just took Alex, slapped a 3 on it, threw it on a PC. They could still do it, and people be like, "Yay, finally!" Even though it's the same damn game as Alex.
Yeah, I mean, I would play Alex even if it wasn't. If they would put out a non-3D version of it, I would play it because I want to play it, but I can't afford a 3D setup right now.
Yeah, it's 3D is cool and it's fun, but it's pricey. I mean, it really is. Plus, you got to have a pretty tight computer to play it right. But overall, overall, I think Valve is a fantastic developer, a very smart company too. But I want to see them actually put out more games, especially the games that they've teased for 25 years.
Well, I mean, yeah, because they've been doing, the problem with Steam is that they have a really good set of the Valve, but they have a really good set of games, but they just come out. It's so rare that they put out a game. I mean, when you think about it, let's put last year, for example. What games did we get from Valve last year? We got 2.
Doom and...
No,
not Doom.
Dota.
We got Dota and Half-Life
Underlords. Exactly. That's all we got from them last year. And then we got nothing in 2019 from them. And then 1 game in 2018, 1 in 2016, 2 in 2014. And, they seem to be slowing down on their game development because we were getting at least 1 a year from them for a while. And now it's getting like years between games from them. Their focus just maybe shifted. I don't know. I mean, they do lease out their game engine quite a bit to other developers. It's not like the Source engine is just for them.
No.
So it's I mean, because the original engine was, what was the original engin called? Was it like Gold Source? Was it Gold Source? No, Source is the current engine.
And then Source 2.
They had something before Source. They had something before Source. Because it was the engine that was before that was built off the Quake engine. I think it was Gold Source is what the original engine that they started with was, because it was like heavily I'm going to use the word borrowed from the Quake engine, and then the Quake engine, but I think it was Gold Source was their original engine that they came out with, which is what like Half-Life was built on, was like Gold Source. They do a lot by gamers. I mean, they're one of the companies that can. It seems like, as Shane has said, they can do no wrong. But in my opinion, I'm always like, where's the next Half-Life? oh, it's going to be
Yeah,
here in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years, and then no years and no years, and everybody was still talking about Half-Life, even
every
though,
E3.
yeah. And when was the last Half-Life before Alex?
Half-Life 2 was what, 2001?
You're talking about the Blue Shift and the Decay ones?
No, I think I'm just thinking of the actual.
Half-Life 2 came out in 2004.
Yeah, and then Episode 2 came out in 06.
But we haven't had a Half-Life game in a very long time. But every year you're like, oh yeah, Half-Life 3 is coming out this year, and they don't even have to say it, and people are just like, oh yeah, Half-Life's coming this year, and you're like, what, where, when? So it's just funny how much how much hype that their game I should say can bring, even when they're not even talking about it. I mean, because what was it? Because they broke after Half-Life 2, they put out 2 episodes for Half-Life 2, didn't they?
They had episode 1 and episode 2.
They were I thought they had a different title, but yeah. And then between 2007 and 2020, there was no Half-Life, but there was talk of Half-Life 3 from then on, and then Half-Life Alyx came out. I mean, that's probably one of their more, I wouldn't say more popular games, but it is a very popular game because I would say probably more people play Counter-Strike than that. I mean, I shouldn't say more people played it, but I should say it has more longer longevity, because Counter-Strike still has even the old 2000 version still has the classic version of 99 still has huge amounts of people that play that game.
You got to remember, for like Counter-Strike, those were mods. Those weren't made by Valve. They were just published because it became so popular. They were just because Half-Life brought in the giant modding community.
Yeah, what was that?
Defeat, Counter-Strike, all those different.
Team Fortress.
Well, I think Team Fortress was made by Valve.
Yeah, that came out as part of because that came out. I remember when they redid that with the orange box.
Yeah. But
my kids still play Team Fortress.
And there was other ones that were pretty high, other mods that came out that were pretty high and up there that became their own physical release. So Natural Selection, I think they have a Natural Selection 2, which was also published by Valve, but started out as a mod. Even Half-Life had its own stuff too, like Opposing Forces and Blue Shift.
And I wanna stand my ground here on this point. Team Fortress was actually a mod for Quake, and developers were hired by Valve to remake it as a mod for Half-Life. So just saying, it was originally a mod. Maybe the wrong game, but it was a mod.
But yeah, I mean,
Russ.
Corrected.
Yeah, I mean, but they make. I mean, if you think about the majority of their, the majority of their stuff was, as you guys have said, mods and stuff like that. I mean, they even had Gary's mod, So
yeah, I forgot about Gary's mod.
Yeah, so it's they just have so much stuff. I mean, just think. They don't have a huge. I should say they don't have a huge range of library, but they have what they do have is like solid stock. I mean. Out of what they have, I pretty much have played the majority of what they have. Outside of, I have never played Half-Life Alyx because I don't have a 3D. I don't have a 3D headset, or I don't have a gaming computer big enough to play that. Outside of that, I've played the majority of the library that they have. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, it's I've kind of played the majority of their library, so I think I've been a fan of theirs for a long time. It's just. They have a lot. They don't have a lot.
Yeah.
They just have a whole lot of, as you said, mods and stuff like that. Because I don't know how many different Counter-Strike mods there is, how many different like Half-Life versions there is out there. Team Fortress, as Russ pointed out, there's like multiple versions of that, and even like I think the Orange Box introduced like a little bit of stuff that they've got from like Gary's mod and a bunch of that other stuff. It's a mishmash, but they just keep on. They just keep on building on that framework. And then the Left 4 Dead stuff. I mean, hey, we've been talking about another Left 4 Dead for years.
Yeah, Left 4 Dead really was the in my opinion, the big console game for Valve. Because I mean, they've had some other games, but to me, that's the one that really established Valve as a console game maker.
And I mean, outside of that, I mean, I played Dota. I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I know Russ has played Dota because him and I played it together. It was in my opinion, it was a lesser version of League of Legends. So really hard to get involved in that one. I didn't like the turn mechanics in it and all that kind of stuff. But it was their attempt, and it's still going on. I shouldn't say it. Dota is still a pretty popular game. Dota, I guess, I'm
Off
just not a
of
fan
major
of
releases, I would say, as a personal side of it, Dota 2 is actually the biggest letdown Valve game I've played. I mean, beyond everything else, I mean, that really is. Of course, we unfortunately did spend a lot of time on League before we played Dota 2, but it just, like you said, it didn't resonate the way that you were hoping on these other games. I mean, even I played the Left 4 Dead series, which usually is not my cup of tea, but I liked them a lot. They were a lot of fun. And then I messed around with Portal 2 a little bit as well. But, I mean, they're all really, there's nothing that's a horrible game. It's not like, it's not like Valhalla or so. No, I'm kidding. I shouldn't say that. I mean, there's some people out there that love it, but it's really not all that great. So it's at least they have quality games.
Right. Well, they publish a lot of quality games that you put out there because even Left 4 Dead's not made by Valve; it's made by Turtle Rock.
Yeah.
It was published by Valve. So if you think about the games that Valve itself actually made, we're talking like Half-Life and Half-Life. That's pretty much it. Like all these other ones we mentioned are all mods that.
Left 4 Dead was developed by Valve South. I don't know.
No, it was developed by Turtle Rock.
It was developed by Valve. Valve, yeah.
Do you know that Turtle Rock Studios, when they made Left 4 Dead, was formerly Valve South?
Corrected twice. Oh.
Turtle Rock Studios used to be Valve. Back in, they were found, but they were acquired by Valve in 2008 and then refounded in 2011.
Okay, well, yeah, they were formerly Valve South, but
no, they were founded as Valve South.
According to Wiki, it says developed by Turtle Rock Studios, formerly Valve South, who were acquired by Valve prior to the release of Left 4 Dead.
Left 4 Dead's a 2008 game.
Yeah. Okay.
Turtle Rock Studios. Studio Rock their Turtle Rock was 2011. So they were owned by Valve when they made Left 4 Dead.
So the moral of the story is don't base your life on Wiki.
Right.
No, what I'm saying is,
which it could be. It's made by people that just type in here, but I mean, Turtle Rock Studio. It says Turtle Rock Studio was formerly Valve South. So it was formerly Valve South, who were acquired by Valve prior to the release of Left 4 Dead, which came out in 2008. So they were acquired by Valve, Turtle Rock Studios, which was formerly Valve South. So I guess they were Valve South, left Valve, formed Turtle Rock Studios, and then got acquired by Valve.
So Turtle Rock they were founded in 2002, and then they were bought by Valve in 2008. Their original name was Turtle Rock, and then they got bought by Valve in 2008, and then they went independent again in 2011. And the game that they developed was published in 2008 under Valve.
Right, but okay, so yeah, I wouldn't say it was made by Valve though, right? I mean, because in this form, it's a separate group that was just purchased by Valve, brought into the company to say they're. But when the game came out, it was published as Turtle Rock Studios as a developer.
It shows here by Valve. Yeah.
I will agree.
But yeah, it's a weird. That's like getting into legal stuff there, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it is technically a Valve game because I mean, Valve. When you look at the titles, it was published and developed by Valve. When you look at the actual developer library for Left 4 Dead.
Right. I
shows
mean, which they
published
were
and developed.
owned by Valve, so I mean, essentially, you could say that, right?
Right.
That was developed by them, even though it's a separate studio that's
And I
owned
think
by
if you go
Valve.
to yeah, and if you go to Valve's site, they even list it as their game. So I mean, I don't know. It's probably like you said, it's legality stuff, but I mean,
Well,
that
I'm
is
just talking about
technically their
like
game.
I'm talking about like Valve proper. If you think about the games that Valve itself, not its subsidiaries, but itself made, you're looking at like Half-Life, and that's it.
This argument brought to you by Valve. Sometimes we make games.
Who makes the Portal? I thought Valve was Portal as well.
No, Portal was a separate group that was purchased by Valve. It was also, I believe it, and I haven't looked at this one, but I believe it was also a mod that Valve really liked and then purchased the company that made it.
I feel like at some point in time somebody's going to say Batman is not a superhero.
Yeah,
No, he's not. He's a rich dude with nice
so
toys.
Portal was developed by a team including DigiPen Institute of Technology graduates who were then hired by Valve to create a successor to another game, which I guess they made Portal, but it wasn't called Portal, and then Valve hired them, and then they made Portal.
Okay, because
off of the original idea of their first game, which was called Naculabelakar. I don't know.
So technically, Portal is theirs, though. I mean, at that point, because if it's
so they bought or they hired the people that made the first iteration of Portal, and then they made Portal. So Portal would be theirs then.
Right. I mean, there's just so many. That's where it gets convoluted. Because I mean, if you start looking at things like Counter-Strike, also known as
they bought that
Half-Life
team too, though, right?
It was Sierra, wasn't it, back in the day?
No, Counter-Strike was just a mod of Half-Life, but
yeah, because it's called Half-Life Counter-Strike is usually what it's referred to when you.
Right, I think it was the original. Yeah, but then they bought the company that made Counter-Strike or the mod community or hired them or whatever. I don't know if they had their own company name or something like that, and then it brought them into the Valve umbrella. And then I think from there, like the other releases like Zero or Condition Zero and Source and all that stuff were all made internally,
Right. Yeah.
And I think Day Defeat went through the same thing too, because that's a really big mod, or was. I guess it's its own separate game now, but I think that one's still being played pretty heavily nowadays.
Yeah, it was a mod of Half-Life. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was a mod of their original game, and they're like, which is fine. I mean, because in my opinion, that's kind of what's the best source of flattery is imitation type stuff, and it's like somebody thought their game was good enough to build a mod off of.
I mean, if Valve looks at these people that make these games like Counter-Strike and Day Defeat and various things like that, Portal and stuff like that, and sees like great potential in them, to the point of actually hiring them for the company to continue this franchise, right, or this game. That's a big accomplishment for those individuals.
Right. Yep. Yeah, because I mean, I guess if you think about that, then what did they actually make? Half-Life, and everything is kind of a spin-off.
Right, Half-Life, and then everything was just kind of a mod that they just hired everybody in and kind of
Valve. Valve is not real. They're like Santa Claus.
Oh, Gabe Newell is Santa Claus.
Yeah,
Gabe Newell
is Santa Claus. Because I mean, even like Gary's mod isn't theirs. I think that was Face Punch, and they just published it.
Right.
And I mean, there's some less. I should say there's a few lesser known games that I think are theirs. Like, what about that Alien Swarm game? That one wasn't popular at all.
Yeah, until looking at the wiki, I never even heard of that game.
I mean, it got decent reviews when it came out. It was average reviews, I should say. It was upper 70s, lower 80s on the out of 100 score when it came out. I will say that I didn't play a whole lot of it because I didn't have a whole lot of friends, but it was just top-down shooter that was single player and had some cooperative multiplayer in it.
So I guess that was a remake of Unreal Tournament 2004, a mod called Alien Swarm, and its developers were hired by Valve.
Shattering the illusion of Valve is what this episode should have been called, right?
It seems like they, I mean, like really, it's kind of like Half-Life and Half-Life 2, and then from there, just the modding community, whatever they've come up with and stuff, not even for their own engine, in this sense.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
Unreal Engine or Unreal Tournament would have been the Unreal Engine, not the Source Engine. So
Right, yeah, and and like I said, the Source Engine, the Gold Source Engine, which was the first one, was what was heavily built off the Quake engine, which Unreal and Quake engine are pretty close and similar when you look at what they came out with at the time. But it's it's funny that you get into that and you're like, okay, so what has Valve really done? And honestly, Valve does a lot. I mean, Valve has their own line of 3D. Their 3D components and then the Steam box and all this other stuff. I mean, they've done a lot for the community. I mean,
Right.
I own a Steam box. It has never left the box, but I own one.
I own one too. I own the controller as well. And
I have a controller
I've taken them out of the box. I've hooked them up. It works okay. And then when I found out it worked okay, I put it back in the box, and that's where it's been.
Right, because at first I didn't quite understand what it was, and I got it, and I'm like, oh, and I got to reading it when I was going to hook it up, and I'm like, oh, you mean so I can just stream this to my my TV in my living room? Well, I don't care about that. I play games on a big old monitor in my office, and so I didn't really care about that after I got it. But I own
works
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that great. Like, I think, personally, I had better experience with Stadia and with xCloud than I did with the Steam box. The little portable one, not the computers they made, but the little.
Right. Well, when we talk about that,
TV dongle.
How long
Yeah.
ago? Well, it's not. I mean, it's a big. I mean, it's not a big box. It's about the
It's like
size
an external hard drive size, like the small ones, not the Western
But you
Digital.
have to think about that. How long ago was that? When you think
Right.
about that in the grand scheme of things, compared to what technology we have now. I mean, they basically.
Well, they don't
killed
even
off.
sell them anymore.
No, but when they first came out, the Steam machines came out like what 2012, something like that, or maybe 2014, something around there. But I mean, that was 6-7 years ago when it finally came out. And in my opinion, all the other guys were just thinking about putting out something that was a streaming device. But Valve's is more like stream your own in-house computer to your TV and play games in any room of the house type thing through your own network. So I mean, it's a little bit different, but it was still a concept of streaming games from your physical hardware to a smaller box remotely. But in my opinion, it didn't take off, and obviously it didn't. They killed it off. But I mean, they basically.
Yeah. I mean, what's unfortunate about that too, though, is the only games that work with it are the ones that went into big picture mode.
Right. Yeah.
Which wasn't every game. It was a good handful of games, but still, it wasn't every game on your Steam library.
Right, and they kind of left that behind, and their big hardware foray since then, in my opinion, has been their virtual reality. When them and the electronics company HTC and Valve did the Steam VR, and then Steam also
Vive.
Yeah, Steam VR and the HTC Vive, because originally there was Steam VR and there was the HTC Vive, and now they have their own, the Valve Index is their current one.
Right.
I mean, they do a lot of stuff. They're just got their fingers in a little bit of everything in the gaming industry, I should say. But
they still have their big picture mode. I only remember when I accidentally click on it.
right. And what do they call? They're really, and my biggest gripe and complaint about them is just a gripe and a complaint from a consumer standpoint. But everything new on Steam is always early access or anything like that. But it's just because they have a huge indie developer love. They put out their is it Greenlight for them? What's their
theirs is Greenlight. Steam Greenlight. Or at least it used to be. I don't know if they call it that anymore, do they?
I don't know. Maybe it's still gone or whatever. Maybe it was replaced by something. But they're really big into like the small developers, and obviously by us talking this discussion, it makes perfect sense since they find these great little modding communities that make a mod of their game that completely changes their game, and then they basically bring them on to start creating stuff full time as a job. So I think it's Steam Direct now is what they call their new one.
Maybe.
Yeah, but like I said, it's really good for small time developers and indie developers and stuff like that. For a person like me, it's just a nuisance and an annoyance because every game on there is just like early access and it never leaves, or it is that. But I will admit we found some hidden gems and treasures doing stuff like that. Steam is in everything. Valve is in everything. I could call them Steam because that's what I've called them since I've been younger. They're always Valve, but it's always been Steam to me because everything is Steam. Because that's what I mostly correlate them with Steam. Obviously Half-Life was a big game, but whenever I want to get on something now, I get on their Steam product, and I'm like, I need to go browse. I'm on the Steam store at least once a week. I don't know about you guys, but I'm on there.
Oh yeah, I'm on there at least once a day just to see what because they have daily sales.
Yeah.
Just to see, they have weekly sales and they have daily sales just to see what's on sale if there's anything I want. And even with other, we're talking about Steam. Even with other developers like you have Origin and Good Old Games and Ubisoft's Ubisoft Connect or whatever their thing is called. Every time I open one of those, I'm like, now how can I get the game I purchased on here onto Steam?
Yes,
so I can have it in my
library
list.
To rule them all.
Because I just wanted a part of my Steam list. Like I don't want to have to open up something else. Now I know you can you can add them there, but all it does is it's just a shortcut basically where it opens up. Like if you buy something from Good Old Games, you can add it in Steam. But then all it does is when you open it, it just opens up Good Old Games or Origin or whatever and plays it from there. So it's kind of purpose.
If you get the CD key and it's a Steam game, you can put the CD key in Steam and it'll then let you play it, but only if it's like a specific type of like volume key type thing. But yeah, I mean, they do a lot. I don't even know where to start with them half the time because of all of what they do. I mean, they've been around for a while now, and they do all kinds of crap. They've been in all kinds of trouble in the past because of the way that they do business. And I'm not saying the way they do business is bad. I'm just saying that they're challenging people. Like back in the day when Valve bought what was it, Sierra Entertainment, because Valve bought them at some point. Or no, Blizzard bought Sierra, sorry, and Valve sued them because of like an intellectual property violation. I mean, you're always hearing something about them in the news, or not even the news, but in the gaming industry, because they've got something going on. I don't know. And Nick made a joke about it earlier, but Gabe Newell is always associated with Christmas because of the winter sale.
Love their winter sale.
Me too. I love their winter and summer sale.
Summer sale. Yep.
Those are the two biggest sales they have, but they have sales all the time. But the winter and the summer sale, they also have little mini games and stuff like that on Steam. So when you buy games, you get little cards and trade them in and just do all kinds of cool stuff like that.
Yeah, the cool thing about the winter sales and the summer sales is like you can go to like the $5 and below games, and they're usually on sale too. So you can get like a ton of really old games. They are old, and they're not always the greatest games, but some of them are pretty good. But you can get them for like 50 cents a pop, or even if we're gonna go beyond that, but outside of the sales, you go to Humble Bundle. I mean, a lot of my game collection comes from Humble Bundle.
Use your words.
I'm trying. But Humble Bundle, they don't do it as much as they used to, but they still have where they'll put out. You can get so many games. Of course, this has nothing to do with Valve or Steam, but it does in a way. Because you can get like 10 games for Steam that typically cost a lot. In a Humble Bundle, all their proceeds or most of their proceeds go to charity, depending on how you slide your little, you can choose how much money you want to put towards charity and other things like that. But yeah, you can get like a whole bunch of games for like $20. You can get like 10 games. And sometimes they have some really good games. So that's where a lot of my Steam library, the 760 games that I have, came from, is from there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do Humble Bundle as much as that. I'm mostly buying because Steam will do like developer or publisher grouping sometimes where you can buy the entire publisher's library for like $100 or something. And I've done that a few times where you just get everything that publishers ever.
I saw one the other
together.
day that was one of those. It was $500, a little over $500 for the
wow.
developer catalog. I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah, that's out of my league. I'm not paying that. What are you guys giving me? Yeah, it better be like the Ubisoft library or something, even if I don't want anything out of there.
Like the
Everything.
entire company.
We probably
Right.
own most of that.
Right, exactly, on somewhere
Catalog.
else. But, I mean, you try to find something that's game related that Valve doesn't have their hands in would be more of an accurate statement, because I mean they have game engine, they have a game service, the Steam service, they have hardware. They used to partner with, we talked about HTC, but they don't partner with them anymore. I think the Index is completely 100% theirs now. They're not partnering with HTC anymore for the Vive. It's hard to say what they don't do. I know, they're still privately held, right? Or privately held. I think Gabe Newell owns like 50% of them or something.
I'm pretty sure they're still privately held. I don't think they have any higher up publishers or anything like that.
Right. So, and I think, Gabe Newell owns the majority of the company still. So, and they're a big company,
Yeah, they are.
Right. I mean, Steam itself is their driving force, right? I mean, it has been for years. That's why we haven't seen anything new from them. I mean, it's surprising, it's really surprising to see Half-Life Alyx. For us gamers, we didn't think we'd see anything else from Valve, because, I mean, the last few games they made or came out with, maybe be some like Dota spin-offs, or they made the Artifact game, which was the card game for mobile devices. Which,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, which I don't think did very well, but and then the Dota Underlords that came out last year, which I don't think did very well either. But those were again published by Valve. It probably created by Valve, but again, it's probably that team that works on Dota for Dota. And Artifact was apparently designed by Richard Garfield, who does the Magic the Gathering, which is cool. But it's also a card game based on Dota, so you have to be a real big Dota fan to probably play it, which I don't think those did very well either. I don't really hear about them much anymore. I think Artifact ended up closing down after a while, didn't it? Or is that still going?
Yeah, I never got into it. I didn't really hear about it until you just now said it. I forgot.
Yeah,
I completely forgot about it.
Yeah, I think Artifact came out and then it kind of dwindled out after a while because it just didn't get the. I think they were trying to jump on the hype train from Blizzard with, the World of Warcraft card game, Hearthstone, that they have, and it just didn't quite grab the attention. I think World of Warcraft's a little bit more, people know that more than Dota.
Name recognition, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the people that know Dota are the people that play Dota, right?
Right.
Unless you're in the know, most people probably don't know what Dota is.
Never touched it.
Let alone World of Warcraft. I mean, World of Warcraft had a movie.
Right.
So I think a general population, more of the general population, knows about what World of Warcraft is. Even if they don't know the game, they know the movie, right? Whereas
Right.
Dota didn't have any of that stuff. So
Right. Yeah.
Did
Blizzard.
anybody here actually watch the movie?
I
Nope.
did. I owned the movie.
Oh, heck yeah. Absolutely. It was actually a pretty decent movie. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't the greatest. They could have done a lot more with it, but it was also in a time before Warcraft was actually released. So the original, this was like a prequel to the actual game release.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a story of Jada and how her and Thrall met and all that stuff, and how Thrall became war chief.
Mm.
So
They're right there.
it's a good movie.
Yeah.
yeah, I never
I'll
watched
have
it.
to, I want to
always
watch
wanted
it,
to. But yeah, I always wanted to. I never did. So
I
Well,
mean, the
it's-
lore in that game is very extensive. It's very
Yeah.
wonderful, but at the same time, it's just one of those things that there's no format to the lore. So it's like you get it, but it's just not as fun as if it was like something that you were watching visually or could read, like, per se.
Right, yeah. There's so many books and stuff about that now, but yeah, this is basically like the pre-story to the current World of Warcraft MMO game. You should say, because yeah, it's the Jaina Proudmoore story and Thrall and all that stuff. And I can't even believe I forgot his name, but the big bad warlock. Why do I forget his name, Russ? The bad
Ted.
guy.
Ted the Warlock.
Bad Warlock.
The main warlock, the one that basically doomed the
Big
horde.
Bad Ted.
Oh, Garrosh.
Garrosh, yeah, Garrosh, yeah.
Garrosh,
He's
there you go.
the story of Garrosh enslaving the orcs and all that stuff in the horde. to the demons. So it's a good story, and if you like the WoW lore, then you'll like the movie. The CGI was pretty good, I thought. So, and I thought well enough that I own the game. It's in my Google Play library.
You mean the movie?
Yeah, the movie. But it's in my Google Play library.
Yeah. I've always wanted to watch it. I just never got around to it, and then I totally forgot about it till now, actually. Until I said something about it. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, there was a movie.
What else Nick has basically pulled the wool away from everybody's eyes on Valve or on Valve, yeah.
Well, even
They only make
everything, even everything that Nick has said, I don't think that he can deny that Valve and the inception of Steam hasn't had its mark on the gaming world in a tremendous way. Yeah, maybe they didn't have very many games released, or maybe they didn't have direct response, but they opened up a world of gaming for indies, for those that are like want to make a game better that's been designed. I would say that I would think that he would agree that it is one of the more influential developers, individual developers or companies out there in the gaming world.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I love Counter-Strike. Well, I used to do Counter-Strike tournaments back in the day.
Yep.
Me and a few buddies would go around, they had tournaments around here at metagames, and, we would go and do the tournaments every time. And Counter-Strike was my jam, back in the day. And, and again, that's a modded game for Half-Life, but still loved it. Day Defeat, played a ton of that. Natural Selection, played a ton of that. There's some other Half-Life modded games that are really good that I can't remember off the top of my head, but of course, Blue Shift and Opposing Forces, and Half-Life in general. Half-Life 2 is still one of my, I don't typically put it on my list as top favorites, but it's definitely there, as an honorable mention as one of my favorite games. I love Half-Life 2 and Half-Life 2 Episode 1 and Episode 2. I love original Half-Life. So, those are still one of my top games. And, I mean, Valve, like we said at the beginning, and like I think Patrick said, Steam. I love Steam. That's my that's my go-to place for gaming on the PC. You got to have Steam involved. You got to have my Steam library. I mean, I have 760 games in Steam. So, clearly, they're doing something right there.
Yeah, I mean, they are definitely. I mean, I just looked them up. They have basically like $2.5 billion in assets, so they're a very huge company. So they definitely.
So they're going broke.
Yeah, they're going broke with all this stuff, I mean, you think about how Steam is, is there. I mean, I trying to find a way to put it. Everybody thought that Steam was going to be a threat to PC gaming. Microsoft was against it. A lot of people thought that it was going to just be a place for pirating of games and stuff like that when they put it out. How are you going to control this? How are you going to keep this? And how are you going to do that? And and over the years, it's been the reigning champ on PC for game libraries. I mean, like Nick said, we have Origins and you have all these others, but none of them hold a candle to Steam in the amount of games they get, the amount of money they make, the amount of people that they have subscribed and actively logged in. They don't. None of them hold a candle to that. I mean, I think the closest thing that we get even nowadays outside of that is probably Game Pass. I mean, in the console world, Game Pass is probably as closest, except for it's a subscription where you get to play games for free.
It's an evolution to what Steam is, really.
And because you got Microsoft and Sony now doing it to where you can have digital libraries. I don't buy hardly anything physical anymore, and it really did start with Steam. And I think, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think honestly, Steam made it to where people pirated less games. Because I remember back in the day when you wanted to get a game, you'd have to go to Walmart and buy the game, and all this kind of stuff, and it just made people that were lazy even more lazy. You'd have to go out. What was the old saying, Russ? How do you kill that which has no life? And you can basically make it easier. I mean, because
well, there's an answer to that now.
Well, yeah.
Get COVID. I'm serious. The dude that game, the guy that character is based off of, or not based off of, but the guy that came popular with all the gaming world. He was cosplaying. The guy that actually got
Oh yeah, the
famous from
cosplay, the
that.
WoW guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
he
died
he
from COVID.
he passed away from COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
that no political message in that. Anybody? I'm just saying, just a joke. Everybody relax. But yes,
Wow. Talk about bringing down the topic.
But I mean,
yeah, I know.
could you imagine how? Because I mean, back when I was younger, you had a lot of like peer-to-peer networks that were easy to pirate games on, like the Pirate Bay and stuff like that, and Hasta La Vista, tons of stuff like that back in the day. And then Steam comes up, and it's just like it's so easy to get a game, and you can get games that are on sale. I honestly think that it probably put a dent in a lot of piracy because it's so easy and made cheap games more accessible instead of having to go see if Walmart has a sale or Circuit City or Best Buy back in the day.
It would
made
be
PC gaming.
it would be interesting to see like some statistics in pirate gaming versus what it was and what it is now, especially with the digital age moving in, because now in order to play the game you have to have the purchase copied or friend share or something like that. Whereas before, like, who didn't have a pirated copy of Serious Sam? I mean,
Me?
Right?
I mean, well, you didn't like the game, but I had it seemed like everybody had a pirated copy of like Serious Sam or the original Duke Nukem, or like, I mean, everybody had, like, one person would buy it and like 15 of your friends would have it the next day. I mean, it was like,
Right. Well,
I
the
mean,
I had a
DRM
friend
kinda
that would download those, and then I just have him. I would just buy the CDs, the CDRs. Be like, hey, I want this game and that game and this
What
game,
was
and
it?
he'd
Right.
burn them to him, and then I would have them. But yeah, I
Napster.
would agree. Like nowadays, if I want a game, I'll just look on Steam, and then if it's not on sale, just put it on my wish list. And then when it goes on
You get
sale,
notified.
Steam
Yeah.
will tell me, hey,
Right. I
this is on
love that.
sale.
I love because I get message pop up on my phone. Hey, this game on your wish list is on sale. And I'm like, how on sale is it? Is it enough that I'm going to buy it? I get those little notifications on Steam, and I'm just like, oh, let's see which one is it, and how cheap is it? I am, like I said, I use Steam and like digital purchases. I don't purchase physical copies of anything anymore, and I think it's a much better system. You do lose something, and I will say when I say you lose something is back in the day, I used to go buy console games because you can't do this with PC games, but console games you buy, you trade into GameStop, and usually if you picked them up and play them pretty quickly, you would get $40 back or $35. A $60 game, if you played it and turned it back in within a month, it's usually you're getting $40 at 60 that you spent, or even as low as 35 depending on the popularity of the game. You don't have that anymore, but I honestly feel that I get to play a lot more because of the sales. Like I can't believe that my Steam library has like 200 and some odd games in it, and then let alone you hear Nick's 700, and then we both have a mutual friend of ours who has a library that I don't even know the exact number, but every time I look at it, it's like it's over. I think it's over like 2,000.
It's over
That's
9,000.
Yeah, and he's a huge gamer, and he's been a PC gamer for most of his life. And I think he recently got a PlayStation. But it's one of those things where it has brought gaming. It's brought gaming to more people because of the cost. Steam, man. I mean, they're known for Steam sales. I mean, there's even all kinds of blog posts and jokes made about, oh, it's Steam sale, I'm going here. Did you guys ever see, you guys fans of like Warp Zone? You know who they are? They're like a YouTube channel group.
Nope.
I've heard of them.
They made a very popular YouTube video back in the day of a bunch of consoles morphing into women. And they were like singing a song, and everybody's like, which one do you want to play? Do you want to play the Nintendo, or do you want to play the Xbox or the PlayStation? All warped into like these women.
I remember that.
Singing a video, and at the end of the video, a dude comes in shades and a computer box and says, hey guys, there's a Steam sale. And the dudes are like looking at the three hot console women and like, we're going over to the Steam sale.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the truth about it though. I mean, I look forward to those main two times a year, the summer sale and the winter sale from Steam. and my library swells during those times because I'm like, put this one in my cart, that one in my cart, that one in my cart. I'm gonna buy that one. Oh, and every day there's like hourly. They used to do hourly, but I think they move it back to like 7 hours. But it's like every so many hours, a different game goes on like a flash sale, and it's like 70% off and 60% off, and you can get games that came out that year for half off easily a lot of times.
Yeah, so. I mean, when those Steam sales come along, I mean, it's not just, websites, Reddit, you name it, are talking about how the winter sale or the summer sale is coming up. Mm-hmm. When it starts, they have start times, what games that they know are going to be on sale, all that stuff. So, I mean, these are big events for gamers, especially on PC, that know that, hey, they're going to get a lot of games for cheap. And, a lot of gamers, like myself and probably Patrick as well, maybe even Russ, we wait for these sales. We don't buy. If we come across games that we really want, we'll put them on our wish list and hope they go on sale in one of the weekly sales. But if not, we're hoping for that winter sale or that summer sale where this game goes down to virtually nothing and picking it up for super cheap.
Right, because outside of what we review, I'm a sell buyer for video games outside of what we review, because we'll review stuff for the podcast, but outside of that, I'm waiting for a sale on a video game that I want. I don't usually buy stuff right out of the box unless I'm just like can't wait to play it. But that's kind of rare anymore. But like I said, I think the Steam service is, in my opinion, their biggest achievement and accomplishment, because it has brought my gaming to a higher level than it ever would have been without it, because I would never own that many physical copies of PC games. I never. I can remember buying physical copies of PC games, and it was like one a month if I was lucky.
Almost all of my games are from Humble Bundle, just because I don't do a lot of PC gaming, but I know a good buy when I see it, and there's great games on there. I mean, I own multiples of Final Fantasy VIII, because I got it on PC and everything else. I go all the Batmans, all that stuff.
Before Humble Bundle and like Steam, I mean, computer gaming as a whole, how often did you buy an actual PC game?
Right. Well, plus they were in those giant boxes too.
Exactly. Well, yeah, the box is like 4 times. The height was like 4 times.
It's like a dictionary.
Yeah, and there's a little disc, a little jewel case with a computer game, a single disc in there, and then a manual. It's like, oh my god! But I was saying, like, how often I can only remember a handful of times going to the store and buying it, because they were always so expensive. Even if they'd been out for like a year, it was like, going to your local software place or Walmart, or like I said, Target or Circuit City or
Software Etc. is where I was always buy mine.
But they were hardly ever on sale. I mean, the only time you saw them on sale was like, this copy of this game has been here for like 2 years. We're going to mark it 30% off. And you're like, I don't know about that.
I think it was the box that made them so expensive. That giant box.
All that empty air in the box.
Not the intellectual property that's inside it.
Right.
It's the box.
It's the box.
It took up valuable real estate.
It did. I mean, it took up half the shelf.
Right. Well,
the last PC game I bought in box at the store was a Command and Conquer collector's edition thing. It's like, cool, bought it. Felt weird, got home, opened it up. It's a code. That's all it was. The box was goddamn ridiculous. Like,
but that's
why?
But before that, I mean, you had stuff. I mean, the actual last physical copy of a video game I bought was a collector's edition, and it was the WoW, the second WoW, or Burning Crusades, I think is what it was. When it was the second expansion for that one. I owned the original collector's edition of that game, and I only bought them because of the collector's edition. And the collector's edition are about the size of the old PC gaming box of games, but they're just full of stuff, But yeah, I mean, I think that honestly, that in my opinion, basically Valve has helped the PC gaming. Mike Harrington and Gabe Newell has done nothing but keep the PC gaming industry going with Steam. I mean, they're probably the reason that there's so much involvement is because it's so easy to get a hold of a game anymore, and everybody is copycatting them now.
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft. Like I said, it's Game Pass is an evolution of Steam, and it's a great evolution. I have no complaints. I love me some Game Pass, but you know they started it, and Sony is going to end up following suit along with Nintendo, and they're already kind of leaning that way.
Well, yeah, Nintendo has the where you can subscribe to their old school retro thing and stuff like that. It's pretty cheap. And I heard somewhere that Sony had mentioned that they have an answer to Game Pass, and I'd like to see what that is. But in my opinion, they just have to do some major studio investments for that to work, because there's not enough first party only games that I would subscribe to that unless they had other studios that were just PlayStation only involved, because they put out like 4 games a year, 4 to 6 games max a year that are PlayStation only, like really like first party huge titles. I'm not talking about all the JRPGs that come out to them that I have little to no interest in playing, or maybe I have enough interest, but they've got to do something, because Microsoft is just PlayStation may sell more consoles, but I think Microsoft makes more money in their games than Sony does.
I would agree. I mean, the math alone for what they make a month is ridiculous. I mean, $15 a month, and they have how many subscribers now in Game Pass? Like 10 million or some junk.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, just it's like copycat. Everybody is and I think Newell and Harrington have basically spearheaded all that. They proved that it could be done. It could be done right, and they could make money off of it. I had read, I think the last statistics that I had even seen by them were way back from 2017 or something, but they were basically selling $4.3 billion worth of games a year, which is like 18% of the market. And I don't know what it is up to now. That's back from 2017.
Yeah, but I do like the fact that EA tried to follow that and
dumpster fire.
Oh yeah, and I was so happy to see that turd crash.
EA, well, it didn't really crash, but I mean, EA basically said we're gonna have our own subscription service, but we're only gonna have our games on here. And I'm sure everybody's like, and why would I want to pay $10 just to play only your games a month?
Exactly.
So I mean,
but I am happy that it's part of Game Pass now.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we'll get all the EA games now. I don't know if they're gonna. I think from what I understand, there's not, because even EA doesn't do it. They don't put their newly released games on. No. That's the bad thing too, is when EA did this, their brand new releases didn't go to the EA Play. You had to wait a little while.
That's true, but I'm okay with it.
Company,
EA's money hungry.
I mean, that was, if you're going to make your own EA Play division like that, and have some sort of situation like that, convincing people to buy into that without new releases being there is the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah.
Because again, like you guys said, why would you want to? What would be the purpose to play some 20-year-old game that I could buy for like $5? Right. No thanks.
There's a syndrome for that. It's called more money than brains, and that's EA for you. They've got more money than brains, and they're just like, hey, what would be a great idea? Let's start a subscription service where you can play only our games for $10 a month. And you can't get anything new. You got to wait 6 months to a year. That sounds like a great idea. How much money can we make? Well, look at Steam. Look at Steam. They have 95 million active users a month. What if we get 10% of that? Somebody pitched a really good idea, and somebody with more money than brains thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, what breaks my heart though is EA is buying Take-Two, and
EA is buying all of our beloved studios. I don't know what you're talking about. EA just needs to start having some money troubles, so they'll start selling off those studios.
EA they just need to be set upon fire. I mean, they're just a sickening company, in my opinion.
We need the government to step in and pull a Ma Bell on them. You have to split.
You got to break it up, buddy.
But
I'm okay with that.
But I mean, I think Steam has done a lot of stuff, in early on that people just mimic. I mean, we talked about Greenlight. We talked about like Steam Direct. We've talked about all this stuff that they've done. They've just done so much stuff that was groundbreaking in the beginning, and now everybody's copying them. Yep. I think a lot of people hate on Gabe Newell just because he's always the butt of jokes. But I mean, honestly, him and Harrington seem to know what they're doing. Their company is making money hand over fist. and they're just reaping the rewards.
Yeah, I mean, what are they? Their defense is, yeah, really. Look at my wallet. I'm doing something right. So,
right. Yeah. I mean,
but
look at my company. So.
Right. I mean, once they came out with Steam, they were making Half-Life, Half-Life 2, and once they came out with Steam, I mean, I would love to see more. They came out with Half-Life Alyx, and I'm really saddened that it's only for virtual reality because I would love to play. I really love to play that game. But their virtual reality systems that you need for that, it's just way out of my price range, so I can't. And that's saddens me because I would really love to play it. But I would love to see more games developed by Valve, more Half-Lives or some other game. But with Steam platform leading the way, I don't expect anything from them personally.
No, I mean, they're making enough money. I mean, because the Valve Index VR kit is selling pretty good. Even when they were with HTC, they were making money, and now they're just sitting back and enjoying that easy life a little bit. I honestly don't know how it can work out. I mean, obviously Steam is their driving force, but they seem to be doing really well in the VR environment, and I hate.
Well, the Index is like rated number 1 or close to it as far as
fairly new
headsets.
It's fairly new, but it drove that, right? I mean, from what I understand, when the Valve Index when they first were talking about the Index, there was not very much buy-in, and then there was this big hoopla that if you purchased an Index set, you got a free copy of Half-Life Alyx, and they sold out everywhere but Japan, I think, from what I read. So, I'm pretty sure that drove the majority of their sales, but I just can't afford a $750 plus VR system for this. I mean, because it is a top grade VR system. If you buy the $1,000 kit, it comes with like 2 sensors, the really nice controller in the headset, the visual VR headset with audio. But then you got to have a computer to drive it. And my computer, you really need a USB 3.0, and I have one, but I think you need 3.0 plus, which I don't have one on my computer, I don't think, on that, to even play this thing, So
it's an expensive investment.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're looking at $750 if you want to buy the Valve Index. There's cheaper options.
I mean, I've looked into it myself too, and it's a pricey investment, and an investment that unfortunately I can't afford.
Oh yeah, I can't afford it either. None of us. That's the whole thing. Is I don't know how they could be making so much money. It's a premium offering in concept, but they're making so much money off of it because I consider the 4 of us in the average spectrum of gamers, and I'm just like, how do we can't afford one, but all these other people can, And because you're looking at, if you want to play Half-Life in the way it was presented, you have to buy one of the premium, and that's either the HTC or the Valve Index. You can get into the Quest ones, but the Quest ones don't have all the functions on the controllers that the HTC and the Valve have. So if you want to get into this properly with the proper controls and manipulabilities of these controllers,
right? The individual fingers.
Yeah, $750 minimum, and that doesn't come with any of the base stations, which control the actual your movement. So it can't.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, you're going to spend $1,000 regardless. So you might as well buy a $1,000 kit
without a PC.
Without a PC, right?
And now you have to have a PC
just to get the VR working,
right? And they're recommending like a GTX 970 plus or a 480 plus to do this, and I'm like, man. I mean, I've got I have a 960 in mine, so mine doesn't even qualify. I was like, what did I put in my machine? But I put a GTX 960 in this thing, a couple of years back. So mine is even the video card's not comparable enough to push this thing. So, I'm at a loss. I'd have to spend new money to upgrade a computer, and you're looking at the way I build a computer. I built a computer last. This computer's been here for 10 years, and I've just upgraded components here and there. I spent $1,200 to build a new computer, and then $1,000 for a headset. There's $2,200. I just can't afford that.
Right, and I have a gaming laptop, which, it says it has a VR ready sticker on there, but I already did the little thing that, to see if if you
For
can play
Val,
Half-Life Alex. And
Mhm.
I one of the I can't remember which one it was, but there was one of the requirements that I did not meet, which I think my laptop has I think it's a GTX 1060 in
So
it.
you're over that. Yeah, you're on the video card side. Yeah.
So, but still, it didn't even meet the requirements.
Right.
Some didn't meet the requirements.
But I mean, still, it's made them money. Outside of that, we can't play it. I mean, I guarantee you that if Half-Life Alex went on to a regular PC game, all of us would have bought it and played it by now.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure. It's even on
So-
my wish list. Even though I know I can't play it.
Right, exactly. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh man, I just want one. How much? How dead would I be if I took $2,000 out of my account, and just did all this, I mean,
I know. I think about how dead would I be if I took $2,000 out of your account too.
Yeah, exactly, right. So I mean, I just, I have the money. I just cannot part with that much money to play a game because right now it's really the only game that I really want to play. So am I really willing to spend? Because I mean, I'd build a computer anyway for down the road. So am I really willing to spend $1,000 just to play a game? And the answer is no.
I hate to say it, but if I had the ability to just go, I would probably do it. I really would.
I have the ability
really
to
want
do
to
it,
play
but
that game.
I can't.
Well, I don't want to be murdered
If I
by
had
my
the
wife.
ability to do it, probably would. But it'd be one of those things like, if I had the ability to do it, and I'm sure it's the same for all of us, it'd be like, I have Alpha Alex and the headset and everything all ready to go. Like, everyone should come over and play it,
Right.
And that's what I would
we
expect
would.
for all of you to come over and take turns playing the game and playing through it, because that's what I would buy it for. Just buy it for so we could all experience and have fun playing the game.
Right.
You know what? I think the three of us would agree you should buy it so we can all play it.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, they do a lot of stuff in the gaming industry. They just don't do a whole lot of games now that I didn't really realize until we started talking about it. I didn't realize how much of this stuff was just them, the modding community, and then them buying the group that put out the original mod and then developing an actual copy that Valve was going to sell. So I mean, a lot of this stuff, I didn't realize a lot of the games were that type of stuff. I knew they did a lot of other things. Like I said, I've got a Steam machine. I got all kinds of stuff. They even did for a while. They even did their own PCs. I don't even know if they're doing those anymore. Do you know if they're still doing their own brand and line of PCs and operating system?
And that's what I was talking about before when I was talking about the Steam boxes. And I corrected myself by saying like the little version, the little Steam box version, not the PCs itself, because when those came out, they were doing the Steam boxes, which were basically those little portable ones, but they were the actual like PCs,
right?
That were supposed to be able to use streaming, but you were streaming to an actual computer instead of a little box.
No, I had the little Steam.
Yeah, that's what I
OS
have.
Powered
too.
Steam machine. Yeah.
Little chip, little box chip thing.
Yeah, that's what I have too. But I know that at some point, like there was, they had partnered with like even Alienware and CyberPower to put out PCs that had their own Steam OS on it. Yep. I didn't know if they were still doing that or not.
No, I don't think they're still doing that. That didn't catch on. Much like the Steam box that we have, the Steam PCs I don't think catched on either. It wasn't.
Steam Link. That's what we got. We got the
as
Steam
far
Link.
as Windows goes. You think about Windows. You take Windows into consideration. Valve tried to make their own OS. Based off of Linux, which was the Steam OS, and much like Linux, which some of us computer people we like Linux. For its own, its own good things.
And
but
Linux
ultimately,
Linux makes an OS that's kind of friendly, Ubuntu, which is kind of friendly for Windows users.
Right, kind of a Windows Linux thing. But when it all comes down to it, which OS would you rather use? Windows, because Windows is widely used everywhere.
Yep. So easier to use, easier to maintain.
Right. So I mean, Microsoft has the monopoly on that as far as OSs go. And Steam try to wiggle into that, with their Steam OS, and it didn't work out. Much like, Linux is still strong and still around, but it still can't overshadow Windows. I don't think it'll ever will. And even the Mac OS still has the same problem.
Well, there was that push a few years back for where like Best Buy and all those were selling PCs with Ubuntu on it, but it just ended up hurting their sales. But yeah, what we got was a
But
Steam.
nobody wants that. I mean, it's not, most things don't use that program, that OS. They're not compatible with it, so.
Right. Yeah, and it was just the OS was just on there so it could run the Steam software to launch the games and everything. But what I was saying is that we got the Steam Link. That's what I've got.
Yeah, Steam Link. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that's what I bought too. And then the controllers that they came out with.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean,
controllers as well.
I didn't realize that they had stopped selling. I knew they stopped selling the Steam Link. I didn't know that they stopped doing.
They stopped selling all of it. The Steam Link, the controllers. No, they don't sell anymore. Because I bought the Steam Link, and you probably bought at the same time too.
Yeah.
This controller and the Steam Link for like $5 each.
Yeah, they were on sale.
They were like super on sale. Yeah. So I bought both of them just to have them. Really,
I think you told me they were on sale, and that's why I ended up getting one.
Yeah, probably so. And then the Steam boxes, the PCs that they created, they weren't on sale for very long. I don't think they lasted that long.
I really thought they would be, due to their partnership with like Alienware and CyberPower.
Right? Yeah, I did too. I thought that would be pretty cool. I looked into them, and they're a little expensive though. They were pretty expensive.
Well, anything that CyberPower puts out, and Alienware included, is like twice the cost of anything without their name on it.
Right. So yeah, they were pretty expensive. They were pretty cool looking, but yeah, it was that same thing. They came with, I think, like you said, with Ubuntu, and then loaded up the SteamOS. Right. And I think most people that bought them probably partitioned the drive and put Windows on it, more than likely. So they probably just ended up using it as just a Windows PC with Steam application on there, and just used the big picture mode. So really, they were just buying a high-end computer for an exorbitant amount of price for nothing.
Right.
And that's what they ended up coming out to.
Well, I think we all can agree Valve started a lot of things and succeeded very well doing it.
Yeah, I mean, they have. I mean, when you think about it, and like I said, I didn't really think about that much until we started this cast, was they launched a game that launched many mods that turned into full-fledged games based off of their original game, Half-Life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like almost all of the games that they have.
Right. And you're like, Nick brought it to the attention. I didn't even think about it until I started looking at the wiki, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, because I remember playing all these games, and I'm thinking like, no, these were all mods. Like all these were mods. And then I started looking at all
they
these,
don't look like the original game.
Holy crap! Like Valve never made anything for Half-Life.
Right. I mean, how could you say the Team Fortress is a mod for Half-Life when you look at, especially the one that came in orange box? You're just like, where did this come from?
Well, even Team Fortress, the original came with the original Half-Life.
Mm-hmm.
It was in with the original Half-Life, so you think like, oh, okay, that's the Valve like multiplayer portion.
Right.
And no, it was just like Russ clearly said, it was a mod. And I didn't know that personally. I always thought Team Fortress was a Valve property, not a mod.
IP, yeah.
Right, with the original IP. And, clearly it was a mod from, what did he say, like Unreal Tournament or something like that?
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, what the heck? So, I mean, obviously it proves that they are very heavily involved in the gaming industry to be able to just go, I like what you did. We're bringing you on board to actually do this for a living now. Because that's what they've been doing. They've been finding those modders, and then they bring them on to make the projects a reality, a full-time job for them.
Hey, I mean, those modders, some of those modders and, Counter-Strike, Day Defeat, Natural Selection, some of those other ones, yeah, I mean, they brought on some really good games, so, hats off to Valve for looking out for these modders and say, wow, that's pretty impressive to take our game and make something so cool like that. and then bring them into the system. And that's cool for those modders, But yeah, exactly what you said. A lot of these games came from the modding community. A lot of the games that are published under Valve that weren't actually created by Valve themselves.
Right. Right. I guess, and you really can't talk about Valve without their weird logo, past logos, I should say, because the logos aren't the same anymore. They don't have the weird logos. I remember back when I was younger seeing the old logo with the fat bald guy with the valve in the back of his head, or the weird looking dude with the valve in his eyeball.
Oh God, I forgot about the eyeball dude
with the valve in the back of the head anymore.
What's that? They don't use that one. I've not seen with their current logo. I don't really see that anymore. I thought they stopped using that logo back in like 2014 or 2016.
Yeah, people were offended by it.
Yeah, even
the
Blue
current
Shift.
Valve. Yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the current Valve logo is pretty much just their normal logo name now, just Valve with the little E.
Oh
yeah, it's the Half-Life spelling.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say Blue Shift, which was a pretty good game. That was made by Gearbox. Well, in collaboration with Gearbox. So probably Gearbox did most of it. Which I like. I like Blue Shift. Blue Shift's pretty cool.
Right.
And then what was it? Opposing Forces? Opposing Forces was also Gearbox.
Right? You're pulling out with the wool, Nick. You got to stop digging.
I am. Yeah.
But I mean, their source engine is what we really, when you think of it now, because a lot of games that aren't theirs are using their engine. Like, we talk about that Black Mesa, which is a developer type. I'm really surprised I haven't pulled them on board to make something, but Black Mesa is using their engine. It's obviously built on the Day of Infamy, and a few things like that. I mean, a lot of people are using, I guess not as popular as the other engines, but their engine still gets a good amount of use.
Oh yeah, and it's a good engine too. It's a good engine for modders, especially.
Oh yeah.
What was that Half-Life gunslinger game? It was also a mod.
There's a bunch of those. Which one?
It came out in full release. Oh, the Gunman Chronicles, I think it was. Yeah, Gunman Chronicles. And it was a Half-Life mod that it got out. It actually came out in box copy, like in store physical copy.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I remember I bought that back in the day too. It was okay. It wasn't really that great, but apparently it was made by Rewolf Software, also known as Rewolf Entertainment. Yeah, Gunman Chronicles. And that was based off the Valve engine too. It was a mod as well that came full release, which wasn't in the Half-Life wiki, but I thought Valve had. Oh no, it was made by Sierra. It was published by Sierra. Okay, that's probably why. Yeah, Sierra Studios published them, but it was a mod by off the Half-Life engine.
Yeah, like I said, there's been I think, if you think back to it, Valve has probably canceled more games than they've put out that are original. I mean, because when you think about it, there's plethora. I mean, I remember talking about the Half-Life Dreamcast port that they were going to do that got canceled. The Hostile Takeover game back in the day, the Episode 3, that was actually really going to happen and got canceled. Ravenholm, that was that code name for one of their games?
Yeah, I remember Ravenholm. Yeah. Because that was one of the towns in Half-Life 2. Right. Like the first town you went to.
Right, and I remember getting hyped about that one, and then it was gone, and then Half-Life 3 again was talked about, and then got canceled. And then Borealis was another one that they did more recently that was canceled. I mean, Valve cancels more stuff than they actually put out. It sounds like that's their own games.
Yeah. I mean,
Prospero, you guys remember hearing about that one?
No, I don't remember that one.
That was the RPG, the fantasy RPG game they were going to do. And then the Crossing.
I wish Valve would do. I mean, because have you ever seen the developer interviews?
Mm-hmm.
The people that at Valve, they're like, we want to make games instead of working on the Steam thing, and they have some high level developers there that could. I mean, is tried and true. Half-Life Alyx. I mean, it got great reviews. So they clearly have some awesome developers there. That could make some really cool games if just Valve would just allow them to start making some more games. I think Valve could, still have Steam and make some awesome games for everyone to play if they would just allow them to do so.
I mean, they're good company, and I like most of what they do and what they stand for. I mean, they've been in a few legal issues and stuff that makes you kind of question what they've done. But in all my opinion, they seem to do things. They seem to do things right for the most part, from what I see. I mean, Newell. I mean, I don't know any of these guys personally, but Dave Newell and then Basic Gabe Newell seems to be doing what he can to make his company the company it is and to keep them going. I mean, him and Mike Harrington founded this, and they both seem like pretty straight shooters for the most part. Gabe's more of a showman. That's why he leads the company now, even though he's co-founded with the other guy. But I don't know. I have a fondness for him, and I tend to check out any project that they're doing. Like as soon as I heard that they were making their own VR stuff, I looked into it, and then I saw the price tag and was like, I'm sorry, guys, but I can't help you on this one, I can't buy this one, but, they seem to be pretty competent, and obviously their company proves it with the amount of money they make. I know what was the most recent thing they were in trouble for. They had some employees claim they were being discriminated on and had really poor working conditions, and I think the employees lost that one and Valve won. So, I mean, take from that what you will.
Yeah, it's hard to, I mean, you hear a lot of that about a lot of places. I mean, Apple is, they're apparently just a horrendous company, just horrendous. But, I mean, I don't know. You hear a lot about that with a lot of companies. Some of it's mostly true. Some of it, might just be, hey, you guys got a lot of money. I want part of it.
Right. Yeah. Any company's going to be in the news to some extent, but these guys less or so. I mean, I'm a fan of theirs. I like their games. I love their Steam service. I cannot imagine my gaming career on the PC without it. To be honest, I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have Steam as my one central point. Because I remember before buying a video game online at a digital sale, and you would get an email with the key and then a link to download the game, and I'm like, before long, you're going to be like, where's my link to download this game? How do I track that I purchased this? Because that was my biggest thing when I first started doing digital games online. As I remember, I think it was a Westwood Studio Games that I bought that was digital. And I bought it, and I got an email with the key and the download link. And I'm like, what's going to happen in a year if I want to play this game again? How am I going to get to this? What if I forget the email? Or what if the link is dead? That type of stuff. And then Steam comes along and answers all of that for me. I'm like, single place to keep all my game keys and all the downloads and all that stuff. I'm sold. Plus now you can do online game saves with Steam. I save my games my game saves to their cloud. So, I think it's a win-win. A huge fan of them and a huge fan of the Steam service more so than anything else. And I will say I like Half-Life. I played so much Counter-Strike in my day. I played Portal. Lots of Team Fortress, lots of Left 4 Dead, So, I mean, outside of some of their lesser-known stuff, I was a big fan. I'm not a fan of Dota. Wasn't a fan of some of their other smaller titles, but overall, everything else that I just listed, I was a fan and played.
Yeah. Nobody really can complain about Valve except for, like you were saying, where's the games?
Right. It's because I think they were in some of that back in the day. They were in some of that loot box controversy with some of the CS:GO skins and stuff like that. I think they were part of that that lawsuit about the underground gambling thing because of that. Because it was a chance you buy these tokens for a chance to get the skin type stuff, and that was back when they were trying to determine if that was gambling or not.
Right.
Well, just waking up in the morning's gambling anymore.
So cool. Anybody else got anything else they want to bring out about this studio? I mean, those are the big things I know about them and what I understand and know about Valve.
No, but next time we do something like this, I would like to discuss EA because I really need to vent.
We don't want to do a down podcast. We don't want to do a podcast where everybody's down on everything.
Well, not fully down. They have great people.
That's the definition
company.
of a crap show. We don't want to have a crap show, right?
It's not fully down. They lost the license to Star Wars.
Yeah, there is like the
well, they didn't lose the
news
license.
this
They
year.
lost
They didn't
the
lose the license,
exclusivity.
but
They lost exclusivity.
LucasArts is spreading the seed out
Yep.
to other developers.
They lost their exclusivity, which I'm all for. I don't mind if they
Yep.
keep it.
Yeah,
Keep
and even
allowed to do it.
And even EA put a thing out like, "Oh, don't worry, everybody. We're still making games for Star Wars." And like, no, we're worried. You can stop making games for Star Wars. It's fine.
Right?
We
We don't
won't be
want
sad
what you
For
got.
you not to.
Right. I mean, in all honesty, the only game that I liked that they put out in the recent time, I should say, is I liked it, but I don't think most Russ didn't like it. The Jedi Order. I like the Jedi Fallen Order game.
I
beat
did
it.
I like
too.
Fallen Order. The only two that I liked, there's two that I liked that they made. Is Fallen Order and Squadrons. I think both of those were really
It
good.
was okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Scott, yeah.
But other than that, I can't think of any other ones that I liked.
I mean, I'm not a fan of the card game they put out, I'm not a fan of the Battlefront games because it's just, to me, it reminds me of...
What was that one
crap.
where the Star Killer guy? Those were pretty good.
Oh,
Force Unleashed?
Yes.
Yeah, those were pretty good, though.
Was that theirs, though?
I don't think Force
I don't
Unleashed
know.
was EA.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't think that was. I thought they did like Battlefront 2. They did the Old Republic, the MMO one, and they did that mobile game, Galaxy of Heroes, that Russ talked about earlier in another podcast, and then Fallen Order and Squadron. And Squadrons was fun. It was just it lacked longevity because it lacked anything outside of what they had basically put in. It was basically a weekender/week game for us, and then that was it because it was just the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, Force Unleashed was not EA. So
Okay. That one was probably just LucasArts or something, wasn't it?
it was a lot, actually. It was LucasArts, Asper Studios, Red Fly Studio.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, it's...
But that's why those were good.
Yeah, because it wasn't EA.
Yeah, they didn't touch it.
I mean, like I said, we all have, I love BioWare, and I feel that EA has ruined BioWare, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that has felt that way, but it just seems like they are the brown thumb of the gaming industry. They're like the
EA ruins everything they touch.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is everything they buy goes to crap. They're like, ooh, look at this game company. It should be the other way around. They should be this company that just has all this money to invest in the property IPs and companies they buy. They're like, hey, we like what you guys are doing. We're going to buy you, but we're going to leave you alone, and we're going to inject cash.
That's what they should do.
Right.
But they don't.
do that.
They try to influence their decisions into the company, and that's why those games come out to be crap.
Right.
I mean,
because they put unmanageable deadlines, and
the one that they did it with, or they didn't do it with, I should say, is Star Wars Squadrons. Right. Now, Star Wars Squadrons is a good game. It's not great, but it's good. And that was one that, according to the developer and the publisher, that they let them just do whatever they wanted.
Yeah.
Which came out with a really great game. It's not a perfect game, but it was pretty good. I don't know about you, but I had a lot of fun playing it for the time that we played it.
Right,
Yeah.
but that was all of it that I had in it. But obviously,
Right.
it also wasn't a full price game, and we mentioned this. It was a $40 game, and it felt like a $40 game.
Right. And
But
then
it
Jedi
was
Order,
worth
I
the
think,
40.
as well, was a really good game.
I did too. I agree. That was a good game. But yeah, that's probably for a different podcast. We just need to do an EA podcast, like Shane says, and we'll talk about the couple of good things that we have about them, and then it'll be an hour and a half long rant about how bad of a company they are. But I mean, so as far as Valve goes, I mean, they do right by me, and my game library is better because of them, and my gaming experience on the PC is better because of them. I think, in my opinion.
I would agree.
Russ,
Yeah, for
how
my
big is?
final
Go ahead.
for my final thing is that this, Valve. I do love Steam, and that's what I use every day, and I love it. And I pick games out of it, and I look at their sales and various things. So that does it for me. I love Half-Life. For me, it's really like two things I want out of Valve. I want Half-Life Alyx to be able to be playable, non-VR, because I just can't afford the VR headsets and the PCs available to play that. And I would love to see more games come out by Valve. We haven't seen a game in a long time come out by Valve, and they've released Half-Life Alyx, which supposedly is really good, and I believe them. I believe the reviewers, and I really want to play it, but I just don't have the money to purchase and play this particular game, and I would really love to. So Valve can really make some good games, and we know that. So let's see some more games by them.
Right. Yep. I want to see them do some more games in as well. I would love to play another Half-Life game on the PC. That's not VR. I'm in the same boat as you guys are. VR is just not an affordable market for me at the moment. Maybe if Microsoft somehow makes it to where you can use the HTC on their box, but I still don't know if I'd be able to spend $1,000 on it. So,
Microsoft will pop one out, I bet.
It sounds like we all kind of enjoy them and enjoy what they do, and they're a big PC gamer, and PC gaming is a big part of why most of us game and still game. I mean, I play a lot of games on my PC. I know Shane's has got his computer is a little bit worse off than the rest of ours, but he still gets some PC gaming in. And Russ has a pretty decent laptop. I mean, he's got an HP laptop, and then Nick's got you got a fairly recent gaming laptop, don't you, Nick? Fairly new?
Yeah, it's a couple years old now, but it's Asus Republic of Gamers.
Yeah.
Laptop. So
they make good stuff. I mean, I buy mostly, in my opinion, when I make a computer, I buy mostly Asus components. I mean, my main board's an Asus like gaming board, motherboard, and then I have, sometimes I buy Asus video cards, but normally I stick with like EVGA and stuff like that. But I buy mostly their components, especially their main boards. I love their main boards, Asus. So, but yeah, like I said, they're a good company, and we enjoy them, and I think they're a positive influence on the PC gaming sphere. Anybody else got anything they want to add?
Board games, Half-Life 3.
Okay. Yep, agreed.
Yeah, Half-Life Episode 3. It's confirmed.
Without VR, not VR.
Yeah, no crap.
Yeah, non-VR. But it's confirmed. Remember that? Remember the whole thing? It's confirmed.
It's confirmed.
Oh, yeah.
Confirming it on the podcast.
It's coming out with Metroid Prime 4, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're all coming out together.
They're going to bundle.
It's going to be like the happiest day of gaming ever.
Good and Evil 2, all those games coming out at the same time.
Yep. It's going to be a big bundle. They're going to group together. Jesus Christ.
We're all going to get our wishes come true with the games.
Yeah.
All right. Silent Hill going to be tucked in there.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be a bonus feature.
Yeah, bonus game.
You just think it, and it will be there.
Oh, yeah.
If you think it will be there. That's the new Field of Dreams logo, right? Slogan?
Yep.
If you wish it, it'll come true.
It will.
Nope. Well, it's still empty.
Bundled. It'll be the green box.
The green box. Every 10 years, Valve comes out with the box, the magic box. What's going to be in it?
God, Gwyneth Paltrow's
That would be cool if they brought out another box. I mean, I love the orange box. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah.
I bought it. I had all these games.
I did too.
And when the orange box came out, I remember buying the orange box. So, funny story. Funny story time. Funny story. Here we're at, we have a place called, and it might be around some other areas, called Family Video, which they're going out of business. But, game rental, movie rental place, after Blockbuster and all that went away. I was up in Evansville because I have some family that lives up in Illinois and Indiana, which is where Evansville is. It's not that far away. It's about an hour drive. So we drive out there, and Family Video would sell some games for super cheap, and they still do. I mean, now they're probably liquidating everything, but at the time, they would sell some games for fairly cheap, where they'd have a little selection where you could buy some of their games, that they'd been renting out for super cheap. So anyway, I went there and they had a copy of the Orange Box. It had just came out. Like maybe a week ago at this time. And they had it there for like $10. And I was like, holy crap, this is still like $60. And so I brought it up there to the front, and the guy looked at it and he was like, looked at me and looked at it, and he was like, I need to call my manager. Because he knew this game was not that cheap. And so the manager came, he's like, and the manager looked at it and goes, oh, well, we stuck the price on it. so they were like, he was like, okay. And so he sold it for me for $10, which he knew, and the manager knew, and everybody knew they ain't worth $10. It was definitely worth much more at the time.
You got Orange Box.
I got Orange Box for
$10.
like $10. And I was so excited because I was like, I saw it, and I was like, holy crap. I can't believe they're selling this game cheap.
You got Half-Life 2, Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Episode 2 Portal, and Team Fortress 2 for $10.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they priced it wrong. They marked it wrong. And, Family Video, if you've ever been there, they're like, anything they price, like, even if it's a mistake, kind of like the big box stores and stuff, if they mark it wrong, it's whatever price they put on it. So somebody marked it.
State of Missouri.
It's free.
Yep. They put free on it. They have to give it to you.
Yeah, they put $10 on it. So the guy's just like, well, that's what we put on it. So
the old joke about there's no price tag, so it's free, right?
Right?
Yeah, unfortunately, I've tried that one.
Dealership
called the police when it took off.
Yeah, I mean, I owned it too. I owned the Orange Box. I bought it, even though I owned everything that was in. I think I owned everything but Team Fortress 2. I think that's the only thing I didn't own in it. I'm like, you know what? I'm buying it. And I bought it.
Yeah, I think that's the only one I didn't play.
Even though I owned all those games, I loved the Orange Box. I remember going home, popping in my Xbox, and I was like, oh, this is so fun. And play all the games again. And
like I said, I love me that Portal.
Yeah, I played Portal and Half-Life and Episode 1 and 2 and Team Fortress, and I just played it all. I mean, it was still just as fun, even though I already owned it. Right. I played through all again, so yeah. But yeah, that was great. Hopefully Valve does it again. Maybe they'll bring out another box, Orange Box 2 or something.
Well, they were supposed to bring out the Black Box. Remember that?
I don't.
It was a canceled thing that they were going to put out. So they're planning on doing the Black Box, but it never actually came to fruition.
It's going to go on that.
It was supposed to be another compilation box that contained like a few other games and some newer stuff that was supposed to come out, but it never did come out. The Black Box, it was canceled, or I think it was just stopped talking about it. But it was supposed to be a little bit cheaper too. Box too, from what I understood, but it never came out, and it never got a full list of what was supposed to be in there. That's probably because Valve kept canceling everything that was supposed to be put in it.
It would be nice to see Valve put they put Counter-Strike on the Xbox, which was horrible. But I think nowadays with the newer consoles, it could be doable. So it'd be kind of nice. I mean, I think they put Global Operation or Go on Xbox as well, but it'd be nicer to see like some of those like Go and Data Feed and Natural Selection and stuff like that. Maybe a compilation or something be put on the Xbox and PlayStation or something. I think they do pretty well. I think nowadays, the way that consoles are now compared to back then, it'll probably be a little easier.
Right. Yep. Agreed. But I don't know how often they're going to put stuff out for consoles, because I know Newall is kind of he doesn't really like. He's not a fan of the development for Xbox and PlayStation. He's actually spoke out about how horrible it is to develop and program for the two consoles. So he doesn't. I don't think we're going to see a whole lot out of him being pushed towards the consoles anymore.
I mean, I would say lost revenue, but he's got to worry about it.
Oh yeah, I think Newall's actually worth more than his company is. I think his company's like $2.5 billion. I think he's worth like $4 billion. He has a net worth of $4 billion, so he's almost worth twice as much as his company. It's not like he's like he can talk smack all he wants. It doesn't really matter to him. So cool. Anybody else got anything else they want to add to this one? I think we've pretty much just kind of wrapped it up with these guys.
Oh, yeah. I think we hit pretty much every avenue on this.
Good company, good games, good episode.
More Half-Life.
Yeah. We hope you guys all enjoyed this episode where we talk about Valve, and we hope to catch you in the next episode.